And we're live from the Rez, here with our special guest, Miss Oletha Leo, in the house. How you doing today?
Good. How are you?
Doing really good. I'm glad you came and dropping in today. It's a special time. This last weekend, we had a very historic conference here at San Diego State University, the Truth and Healing Conference. Really, the Genocide Conference, I think, is the word that everyone that rings in everyone's ear. The Genocide Conference. So it's the days after. How are you feeling about all this?
Good. I think we had a really good line of speakers, presenters, wisdom keepers, cultural wisdom keepers. A lot of people showed up. I think it was really a success.
Yeah, I got
awareness.
Sure. I got to show up for the some of the opening. My mom came out and did the. You guys honored her, having her do the blessing. I was really thankful to see her out there. Thank you.
So much thanks to your mother.
You know what was really cool though is to see her there sitting there, and then her schoolmate, Dr. Anthony Pico, who is a longtime leader here of our community, was longtime chairman, still even out of office, he's still a leader amongst our people, a true Kwai Pai. But just to see them up there, I grew up hearing stories about them too and their crew, their teenage crew and all of them, and hanging out and all their experiences of young. I heard those from my mom, so. He's definitely one of our elders, and but it was cool to see them up there and being treated in such high regard as they should be, right?
Yes,
they've gone through so much. Their generation made it possible for us to be here, not just physically, but economically. They were the ones who were the big part of the stewardship to create economic development. They were the ones who kept the culture alive, so we could have something today here in our area. They were the ones that went and sat with those old ones and hung out with them and brought that kind of stuff forward. Their generation did, and them two in particular. So I thought that was really cool to see them up there.
Yeah, and we filmed it too. So
okay,
access to that film and be able to get that out to everybody in various different ways.
Awesome.
So we archive that.
Okay, so let's back it up a little bit, because for those who don't know about this conference or about some of your work, you are a member here of the Viejas Band of Kumeyaay. And so I've known you all my life. I've known you to be a participant and a leader in our education committee at one point, department. You've been involved in the wellness. You've been involved in the culture. And I mean, just really every part, the enrollment, every part of the tribe you've kind of been a part of. And what started that for you?
Well, it's the trajectory of our parents, of our grandparents, their involvement, really was my family, just seeing that was really important, and who else is going to do it but us. I remember my mom telling me a story about my great grandmother Prudentia Pipa Hyde. She actually she would say, it's our responsibility to take care of our home and and our tribe, and we have to be able to step into the plate to do that. We have to be able to see where we're could help and be of service, and participate where we can.
So how do you feel like being a Native woman growing up around the reservation? How has that kind of changed your perspective on things?
Oh, well, yeah. Well, I mean, I think there's a perspective that a lot of people wouldn't be able to relay unless we're in it. And as Native women growing up on the reservation, that perspective isn't always told. It isn't always conveyed.
Sure.
And it's a valuable perspective. And no one really has, the experts in that perspective are the respective Native women who are within our communities.
Sure.
And giving platforms for that perspective, those understanding is very important. It's very valuable. And I think helping with the organization of this conference, providing that platform for our elders to be respected, like your mom, Aunt Virginia. I was really impressed, and just it was heartwarming, and it resonated to hear, her speak our language in the crowd and to hear it echo throughout that campus. It was beautiful.
Yeah, I felt like it was like, the setting especially, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and then Anthony to come up there right after. Just a really beautiful transition.
Yeah.
And then to see them talking story afterwards and laughing, and they're with each other sitting up on stage.
It's almost like you could see the healing in real time. You could see it there.
Yes, you could.
Because they've been through so much. And like, I know for me, I grew up seeing them as leaders. So my mom was always on council, and he was the chairman most of those years. And so I seen them, you know, I had the opportunity to go travel with her here and there, go to Washington, D.C. and whatnot, and see our council, and to really look up to our own people as leaders, as sovereign entities, to say we're sovereign people. You know, and we're going to represent that. We're going to put that forth. We're going to go have these key meetings. We're going to advocate for ourselves and for our people, and be in those key positions. Come to the table, and it was cool to see my mom as a woman do that growing up, and then to see our chairman. You know, I would see like on the Indian gaming, you know, magazines and all these, you know, all the different organizations that would have him on there, and he'd be out talking about sovereignty and our rights and just, you know, what it is to be a native today, and how we have to continue to really, you know, push our way forward a little bit, you know, and not take no for an answer and all of those kinds of things, but really advocate for our people, advocate for our youth, advocate for our elders. And I was always proud. I was proud to see like our chairman do that. There's so many, you know, chairmans in the region, and good chairmans, good leadership, so much good leadership out in Indian country, but to see our own, and then now to see full circle they're older and their elder position now, and to have them still smiling around. It was real cool. I liked it.
It was really phenomenal. It was so like, okay, so I was talking to your mom on the phone right before she got there, because I was arranging cart service to go get her and kind of doing that. She goes, I go, okay, Auntie, I'm going to have someone can get you in the cart. And I said, you know, I'm working a lot right now, but there's going to be someone there to meet you. And she goes, oh, honey, I wish I could have been there to help you. And I thought that was just, I don't know, that just like, you know, it's just like, here she is still like, you know, in that place and having that value system to engage and participate and be helped where she can.
Yeah.
It shows and conveys that. And in that moment, I was just touched. I was like, wow.
Sometimes it's problematic, though, because I'm like, Mom, sit down. We'll carry that for you.
Yeah, no,
I'll drive by, and I'll see her trying to unload her car. I'm like, oh, man, I tell my boys, get over there and help your grandma.
No, but it was the sense of like, that she's relaying that feeling and that sense of scope, paralleling what my mom said her grandmother would say, which is you help and you participate and you engage where you can. You know, it kind of was really exemplifying that. It was an example of that. You know, it really like shared. And the fact that she shared that with me and that she said that just made me feel really comforted and really good.
That's cool. I think they kind of had to in their generation. I see that with my wife. She's on council for her tribe, and they don't have a lot of resources, but they try to make a lot happen for their people. So they don't necessarily have a big crew that's going to come and take down chairs or, you know, or go move things here and there. So, you know, you go up to their events, and when it's all over, you see the council there moving chairs and tables, and, you know, they do have tribal employees, but they're the ones there cooking up the burgers or whatever's going to be for the people. You know, they do a potluck and they bring plates, and it's just really cool to see that grassroots, the effort by the not just the people, but by the leaders, you know, and true leadership. And again, not going to say no because we don't have the resources. Like, we'll find a way. And I see that, and I think back to like when I was a kid, and seeing our council kind of being like that too, that they would show up and make it happen, you know, and whatnot. You know, they have the Christmas parties or something, and you see somebody on the council or somebody's uncle dressed up as Santa Claus, or, you know, they just make it happen so you can have a good environment for the kids.
Right. Or you're going and getting the stuff for the party.
Yeah.
You know, I remember that. Yeah. Like getting the stuff, setting up, you know, and so this was a little bit more intense, but, you know, of course there is that grassroots component to this, the organization of this conference, because it was really about, you know, putting in and volunteering your time and being present and doing what you can to make it happen. And we all had to, you know, hold together. Yeah.
One thing I really enjoyed about the conference, again, I didn't get the opportunity to go. I had to go to some ceremonies, but I went to parts of it. And so I saw a lot of it on social media. I know there's the Warrior Spirit on Facebook's a good spot to see a lot of videos and things that are tagged. So anybody out there wanted to see some of what we're talking about, look up Warrior Spirit on Facebook. But what I got a real sense of is you have a true diversity of expression, of perspective. You guys had some really top-notch individuals in there, doctors so-and-so, doctor so-and-so, you know, like all of these PhDs. Same time, you had traditional healers in there. I know that there was, throughout the community, people came out who don't have those degrees, but they're healers. They are our academics. You know, they're our specialists. You know, that work in medicine and with the people. And then you had people that have been through it. They've been through these times of healing, and who are still in the middle of it. And we are all in the middle of it. And one thing I thought was great was seeing the perspective of some of the reservation Indians come out too, because I really feel that it's real easy to dismiss tribal perspective and tribal voice by simply saying, oh, I got a degree, where's yours? And having that way. And I have a degree, I have a couple degrees, but I'll tell you, when you talk about Native peoples, those degrees almost don't mean much. Yeah. I don't want to say they're meaningless, because they're not. They're important. Right. But you want to know what the perspective of Native people, you have to ask Native people, and not just the shiny ones who are really refined. You have to ask all of them, all those rezzed out dudes who don't leave the res. Go get their perspective. Yeah. The old ones, the young ones who are, there's so much perspective there. And sometimes I feel like in those settings, you don't get people really trying to respect that perspective. And I felt like you guys did that. I thought you did a good job. I don't know, do you ever feel that way? I feel sometimes like that's
absolutely.
A thing.
100%. Yes, okay. Absolutely right. And that was really important to bring about community perspective at this conference. That sure, you have the educated Native person, and that's valuable in talking about and having degrees and being able to relay the aspects of that, respectively, of their academic sense as well as their cultural sense and their identity. But the community grassroots perspective is so necessary in our community, and really having platforms for that is really important and valuable. I like that. Let's see, we had, I think that we did a good job of that in some regard. I think that was something that we could have had more of. Okay. I think we could have more of that as well.
And moving forward, that would probably be a focus, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, one thing I think about when you think about the different perspectives, and like I say earlier, sometimes we really put forth the refinement of our people and our heritage. We want to do the songs, the dances, the stuff that's very attractive, the stuff that's, we're kind of still almost playing up to the outside world, we want to put out those who are the well-spoken ones and whatnot. But sometimes the people who have gone through the most trauma in our communities, who have had to, feel all that intergenerational trauma, they still are in the Native communities really going through it, and we kind of like want to hide them in the shadows sometimes. And to me, what I get bothered by is that when you do that, those people have family too. Sometimes they have kids and whatnot, or sometimes they themselves are young. And every time you say like you're not good enough, to me it's almost like a not good enough thing. It's like when you say you're not good enough to be out there in the forefront representing your perspective, again, you're continuing to drop that. You're continuing to create insecurities.
Which creates trauma.
Which creates trauma.
Lateral oppression. Yeah. It's like, we are good enough. When are we going to say to ourselves, we're all good enough? Yeah. And we're good enough in our perspectives and our thoughts and our ideas are good enough to share for ourselves, to relay to, whether it's, our regional communities, our local communities, or national communities, regarding who we are as Native people. We're good enough.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the message is that we're not always.
Yes, there is that message.
Man, the message has been, and I think that's a huge part of us healing is to accept that.
And accept that and say we are good enough. Yes.
Step one, you identify the problem, and you think, what's the problem? Well, some of the messages that I've seen, like even for little kids, you watch the movie Pocahontas, Disney's Pocahontas,
right.
And I just saw a meme the other day, and whoever made it was so clever, it was funny, but then I was like, man, that's so true, where they were talking about Disney tried to get us to believe that Pocahontas would ditch this Native dude, and they had the picture of the Native guy in there, and he's like, some buffed up,
what was his name?
I don't know the character's name, but she would ditch that guy for John Smith, and they had the other picture, and it's like, wow, that's such an image right there that why would she do that when she has this real handsome guy with the long hair? Obviously it's a cartoon, but that's a strong message, and that's being sent to the kids, which now are adults, but that's a strong message. Right. So messaging, I think, is real important.
Right. And then our kids are seeing those messages, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And, that's something too. It's like how much of that influences how we feel about ourselves.
Yeah.
And how much we feel that we're relevant, Where's our relevance come from in society? Maybe it's not coming from society. Maybe it needs to come from us. Maybe we need to start honoring our own relevance. Like your show is doing right now. Your podcast is doing that.
We're trying.
Making relevant our stories. Our thoughts, our minds, our perspectives.
Yeah.
And that is healing. Your podcast has a healing, relevant aspect to it, I believe.
Well, thank you. We appreciate that. And wow.
No, I'm not
but no,
saying
we
that
really
to say
do.
I really
Yeah.
feel that.
All right, we're giving extra plugs on this one.
No,
hey.
no. I
really
feel
believe
like it's
yeah.
so important though to see that and to support that in our community on every level.
Yeah.
We can. It's supporting the resiliency, it's supporting our relevance.
The native voice.
Yeah, the native voice.
You know what's another message too is we're talking about being good enough. You know, another one's like the whole blood thing. You know, like you can't be enrolled or you're descendant or whatever. That's another message that you're not good enough. You know, I don't know. There's just a lot of those messages about that, and it's like we don't realize how damaging that can be. But we have to continue to build ourselves up. And so we have to empower ourselves.
Right.
And
that was the beautiful thing about this conference is to see and to help create the platform for our voice.
Yeah.
You know, and for the understanding of an issue that we don't always get an opportunity to talk about. Now, mind you, it was 4 days and we need a lot more capacity to talk about the issue of genocide.
Sure.
And in light of, and I don't want to make this as if this is a reason, but in light of an apology from the governor, that capacity and that platform to discuss the issue of genocide, there needs to be a lot more of that.
Yeah.
There needs to be a lot more of discussion regarding that, as well as the healing component, the truth and the healing within California, how that has affected our communities. And we, respectively, having those conversations, you know?
Right.
Like, you know, what are the effects of that in our own community?
Mm-hmm.
You know, do we see those effects?
And
do those effects stem from that genocide? From those initials assault?
Yeah.
Those bounties on our scalps and our people having to hide their culture, our ceremonies, our way of life, just to survive, our identity.
And I know, so awareness is huge and all of these different issues and everything. And I don't know, I just feel like sometimes our elder class have a good understanding of, life and everything. That's what they're about. So they have the ability to stay aware of all things, old and new, and all that kind of stuff. But I was going to ask you, what's something that really stood out to you with your conference? What's something that really, I know there was a lot that stood out. Was there anything that someone said or did that you thought was really impactful?
Well, I think Anthony's keynote was really impactful. I mean, he had a lot of say and touched on a lot of issues. Yeah. Right? So genocide, trauma, historical intergenerational trauma. I have an excerpt from his
cool.
If I can share that.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah. I suspect people may be asking, why not just move on and forget it? It's old history. Indians haven't forgotten that old history, not for lack of trying through alcohol, drugs, suicide, and self-destructive lifestyles. We can't move on because genocide haunts our lives and destroys our community through childhood and intergenerational trauma. Then there's the reality of ongoing racism and indoctrination from settler colonization, poisonous fruit of the deadly plant. I assure you, remnants of European beliefs that fueled indigenous genocide are still evident in the beliefs of many Americans. There are a percentage out there that can taste the hate on their lips. These beliefs continue to fuel genocide and impact Native peoples. We can argue that recognizing and understanding what prompts genocide, as in the horrendous Jewish Holocaust, ensures history will not repeat itself. However, history is not always a sufficient deterrent, especially in the case of the American genocide of Indians. America's genocide is still a well-kept secret to all but the victims. Today, we're hoping to expose the malignant skeleton still lurking in our mutual closets. There's another very important reason we need to talk about the genocide of North America indigenous people. It's ongoing.
Yes, it is. And this week, a lot of Americans celebrate Thanksgiving, and a lot of Natives they celebrate no thanks, no giving, or a day of mourning. I think this year a lot of groups are bring attention and awareness to the missing murdered Indigenous women and wear red. But that's those final words. It's ongoing. That's so key. Because, you have to accept it. And it's just so easy to say, oh, it's in the past, move on. But no, there's still tribal communities and individuals still dealing with these things. And if you as an individual tribal person, you're strong and you made it and you're doing great, cool. But be empathetical to your brother and sister who are who maybe are not there yet, who are still struggling.
Yeah.
And let's, strong enough to help. Well, then, let's put the life raft out. Let's put the hand out and help each other out.
We need to stop the judgment.
Yeah, stop the judgment. Stop the lateral hate. Let's be understanding, empathetical. Let's put that heart forward.
Yes.
And let's acknowledge, step one, you got to admit there's a problem. American history is what it is. It is what it is. It's in the books. It's in the oral stories. And let's get that Native perspective out there. And so with that, I want to say thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
We got to do this again.
So much.
We got to do this again because it's ongoing. Last year you guys had Warrior Spirit Conference,
Warrior
right?
Spirit, yeah.
And this year was the Genocide Conference, Truth and Healing. Okay.
Truth and Healing.
Truth and Healing. And I know you guys got plans to keep it going, huh?
Right, to keep it going. There's talk about possibly doing one on women leadership roles in our community and so forth.
Oh, man. Yeah.
It's something that I think would really be valuable. But
as we talk about missing murdered Indigenous women, one of the things is we got to teach our young ladies to not have to go out. They're enough. They are enough. They don't have to leave and go put themselves in situations. And that's not always the case, but sometimes it is. And we need to empower young ladies. And the way to do that,
to be protective.
Protective,
and help spread that awareness of protection. And where does that stem from? And how does that look within our reservation, respective reservations, Native communities, urban, non-Native communities? What does that protection look like for our Indigenous women?
Absolutely. And give them a voice, right?
Give them a voice. Give our women a voice. Yes.
That's awesome. So I know if you go onto Facebook, I think it's a good spot. I see a lot of people are, it's like an ongoing conversation. There you see a lot of information about all kinds of sorts of things that are, genocide and our healing is such a broad, diverse thing that there's so much there, but you get a lot of information about all this there, huh?
It's pretty relevant.
Yeah.
I would say that I'm really, I will post once we have the videos.
Okay.
I'll post them there as well.
Okay.
So that'll be good.
So Warrior Spirit, huh?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Warrior Spirit, yes. And actually, I think there's a Facebook with the Truth and Healing California Genocide Conference too.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
And what I tell everybody, because sometimes you get people come up to me and they say, God, I feel so bad about all the things that have happened to your people. And for those people, I tell them, one thing you can probably do is continue to educate yourself. And maybe there's a way you can help out. This is not just a Native issue, it's a human issue. And I always tend to throw out some history, so I'll start telling them about how bad Andrew Jackson was or how bad Abraham Lincoln, people call him Honest Abe, but these are two terrible presidents that really did negative things to Native people. So I always tell them, if you have any imagery of those guys, crumple them up and throw them into a pile, and I'll take them from them, all their Jacksons and all their Abraham Lincolns, and I'll bless them, and I'll make sure they find a good way to get away from all that. I don't know if Benjamin was a good guy or not. Better throw him in there too, and I'll take care of it. So with that, again, thank you for being here, Oletha.
Thank you.
Everybody else out there, take care in your womb.
Yes.
All right. And in remembrance to the missing murdered Indigenous women.
Yes.
And day of mourning, no thanks, no giving. And those of you who are celebrating, enjoy your families, and don't forget that.
Love them.
Don't forget that there's a lot of sacrifice. You can enjoy that turkey leg, or tortilla roll, or whatever you're having.
Yeah.
All right.
Good. Thank you, Ralph.
Take care.